Hey, this is Mikey with another After Effects tutorial, and I'm going to dive back into shape layers and show you how to do this cool animated puffy cloud. So I got such a good response from doing my tutorial last week with some shape layers, I thought I would do another shape layer tutorial. Now, there is lots and lots and lots you can do with shape layers, so if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and just ask them in the comments. And if I don't get to them in this tutorial, then I can get to them in your questions or maybe future tutorials from now on. So don't be afraid to ask questions in the comments. So let's get started. I've got just a blank composition here. It's 1920 by 1080, 5 seconds long. And let's grab the pen tool. And if I don't have anything down here, there's no layer I'm selected, then the pen tool, or really the mask tool, both of them act as the shape tool. Now, if I have a layer selected, then they act as a mask tool. If there's nothing selected, it'll create a shape. So let's go ahead and draw our puff of smoke. I'm just going to kind of just quickly draw, and to move these handles like this, I'm just holding down Alt or Option on my keyboard, and it kind of breaks these handles, and then I can kind of move them how I want. Okay, and I'm going to turn on my rulers, and what I've done is I've just added some rulers right here on 960 by 540 right in the center. So let's go in and just move this shape layer. Now as I select this, you can see I've already got, there is my anchor point right in the center, but I want this point right here to be in the center. So let's go into the shape layer, go into the contents, and let's select just the path. And then I can take this and I can move it right to the center. And then what this is going to do is now if I need to go in and rotate, it's going to rotate right around the center where I want it to. Or if I need to scale it or anything like that. So I also want to go into this path. Let's take this bottom corner and make sure it's right on the line as well. Let's take this handle, make sure it's on the line. Okay, so there is my initial puff of smoke, and this is what it's going to look like right in about the middle of the animation. So what I need to do is I need to animate to the end and then also animate from the beginning. So I want this to be about 12 frames long, half a second. So here's 12 frames right there. So let's go into 7, the start of the second half. I'm going to go ahead and keyframe the path on that shape. And I'm going to go to 12, and let's go in and animate what I want this to look like at the end of the animation. So I'm not really being very precise about how I want this. I just want it to be kind of moving out and getting bigger like a puff of smoke. Or some dust on the ground, kind of moving. Now I do want these, you can see this keyframe and that one right there, those points. They seem to be about the same. I want them to be, the relationship between them to be different, almost rolling around. So it looks more organic and not so. There, that's a little bit better. Now let's go back to the beginning, and at the beginning let's again do the same thing but move everything more towards the center. I don't have to do right towards the very center because I am going to scale it as well. But I do want to have the difference, I want the smoke to kind of move and animate and grow. So that's pretty good. Maybe at this point I'll have this smoke to kind of start be wisping in like that. Okay. Now at the beginning, I want it to be completely gone, and at the end, I want it to be completely big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the transform shape. I'm going to hit scale, the keyframe for scale, 100% there, go back to the beginning, bring this down to 0%, and because I had everything anchor point right here in the center, it's going to scale out of that center just nicely. So that's my initial animation, and what I need to do here now is add a kind of a merge path to cut out and cover up this part of the smoke with a new part of the smoke. And the easiest way to do that is I'm going to just go ahead and take this shape layer. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to add a group. I'm going to call this group merge. Put both shapes into the group. And then select that group again. Go to add merge paths. And it's going to take the two paths and it's going to merge them together. Right now it's just set on add, but I'm going to set it to subtract. And then let's take this bottom path, select the path, and as I move it over, you can see the two paths subtract from each other. So I can easily just take this, let's also take the scale, and let's just move it over in time. And you can see it kind of eats itself, basically, and covers up the smoke. Now, I don't want it to maybe cover up exactly like this, so I can come in here and adjust these keyframes a little bit. See, and at this point, the smoke has stopped, and then it just is covered up. So let's move this a little bit. And what I want to do is I want the smoke to keep on kind of growing, wafting a little bit. So let's just go to shape 1, or I mean shape 2, which is the back shape, the one that's still left over. And right here we have the keyframe for scale. I'm going to go forward to the point at which it is covered up, and then let's scale that up to, I don't know, 109%, looks about right. And then I need to do the same thing to the transform on shape 1. But I'm going to do this one with just the transform path, because I'm going to work on this path a little bit, because you can see right here it's kind of not covered up right. So let's go in, and I kind of want to move this path over a little bit. I want this smoke to start coming out a little bit before it's being covered up. So there's the path. I'm going to move these anchor points. And just kind of finesse this, make it look real organic, nice curves. You don't have to do a lot of work on the way it looks, because it is going to be moving rather fast. And at this point, right here, so this is the last frame in which it is still growing, and the frame after that is the one I want it to be covered up completely. So I'm going to highlight this path again. Let's just go in and change these individual points so it covers up the entirety of the cloud. I want to make sure that everything is covered up. Okay, so let's take a look at this in full animation. Now what I like to do is make sure that I deselect the layer so I can kind of see it, and I really like the way that looks. So let's kind of finesse this a little bit. And what I want to do is let's go back into contents, and I'm going to do a lot in the shape layers, just because there's so much you can do in shape layers. I'm going to take, remember this merge path here, I'm going to duplicate that. We'll just keep on calling that merge 2, that's fine, because we're going to put this in a group later on. And let's go into this, and when you add a merge path, it adds a new fill. So if these two shapes were different colors, it would unify them into one color, and that's what this fill does. So I can come in here to this fill, and let's change the color of it. Kind of a gray. And before we get too far, let's go ahead and put a new solid layer in the background. Let's do a nice blue. Stick in the back so we can kind of see what's going on. Okay, let's go back to this merge 2 that we had just created. And I'm just going to go into the transform, and let's just scale it up a little bit. And then what we have there is a little bit of a gray outline. Simple as that. Okay, so now we've got these two merge paths. I'm going to add another group. Let's call this cloud. Put the two paths in there. And this is just like pre-composing these groups. So I can now duplicate this group, come into the transform. Let's go to scale and just flip it on its horizon. That's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is I want to create kind of a little smaller subset of clouds in the middle, and I could keep on duplicating in the shape layer, but for what I want to do here, it's easiest just to duplicate the entire shape layer. So I'm going to, let's call this one big cloud, little cloud. So let's take this little cloud and then scale it down. Let's put it on top. And then I just want it to start at a different time. Okay, so there's the quick animation. Let's go ahead and turn off our rulers so we can kind of see better. Let's scale this to fit. And I'm going to go ahead and just parent the little cloud to the big cloud. And now wherever I move this big cloud, everything will line up just fine. So let's go ahead and add, let's have something fall and kind of land there. Let's have a falling rock. There's my falling rock. I'm a little bit lazy about that. So let's have it land right there. I'm going to go ahead and hit P on my keyboard. It'll open up the position, keyframe that, go back in time, just a few frames, move it up, and then there it goes and it lands. So some things we can do is maybe we want this little cloud to be on top of the rock and the big cloud behind it. Add a little bit of depth and dimension to it. We can also motion blur all of this. And something I like to do is let's go to layer. Let's add a new adjustment layer. And in this adjustment layer, let's go to time, posterize time, and bring the frame rate down to, let's say 12 frames a second. That looks a little bit more like a hand animated thing. We can also take off motion blur. It looks a little bit more like a hand animated thing. I can also come into this little cloud, maybe change the opacity, bring that down a little bit. So lots of little things you can do. And after I've built it all together in the shape layer, it's really not that difficult to kind of add and create things. So there is my animation using shape layers. So it's kind of a quick 2D style hand-drawn animation. Again, I did it all in shape layers. And if you have any questions, I know shape layers can be kind of difficult sometimes. There's lots of things to mess you up. There's lots of different ways to get kind of confused and turned around. So if you have any questions, just put them down in the comments. And if I can answer them, I will. Maybe even do a tutorial on them. And if you haven't done so, be sure to subscribe to this channel. I put out videos every Friday, and they're good ones, at least I think they are. And I hope you can learn a lot. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time.